as we gather to reflect on the year past, I pray that we could each pledge, as part of our resolutions for the year ahead, to play our part in helping to catch cancer early. Your life, or the life of someone you love, may depend upon it. Therefore, this brings my most heartfelt thanks to the doctors, nurses, researchers, and charity workers involved in diagnosis and treatment programs, together with my particular good wishes to those for whom they care so selflessly.
Well, let's introduce our panellists for the Context USA, Democratic Communications Strategist Hillary Rosen and National Security Analyst and former federal prosecutor, Republican Joe Moreno. Thanks to you both for being with us. Just want to get a quick reaction from both of you to what we've heard from King Charles there. Joe, this is very personal for you in particular.
Hey, Katrina. Well, I mean, early prevention, early detection, absolutely essential. I can speak my own personal struggle. At 15 years ago, as a 35-year-old healthy young man, I started having some strange symptoms. I ignored them for months. Cold sweats, night sweats, a heaviness in my chest, heaviness of breathing when climbing stairs, things that shouldn't have happened. In my case, finally, my mother, of all people, Linda, and my wife said, we got to go to the doctor. And it turns out I had a fist-sized tumor in my right mediastinum. It was lymphoma. So thank goodness it was stage 1A. Thank goodness chemotherapy and radiation took care of it. But my lesson, and what I would share with anyone, is if you have any kinds of strange symptoms, don't ignore them. Don't blow them off. Get it checked out, because it could have been a lot worse for me.
All right, glad it wasn't, of course, Joe. Thanks for sharing that story.
Indeed, Joe, my goodness, we hope you're good. And always, I think the tale is always listen to your wife and your mum. Come on, let's face it. Hillary.
Just to put Hillary's point to you there, that both the Republicans and Democrats are politicising this and not thinking of the survivors.
Hey, Katrina, well, I 100% agree, Hillary. This is absolutely bipartisan clownery. And this is exactly why we don't do these things, right? This is why what should be a structured legal process whereby we release investigative images and files only if and when we charge people. And if that's the case, the evidence we use in court is made public. If we don't charge those people, or if the evidence is not relevant to those charges, we don't release it for exactly this reason. So you can't pick and choose and create innuendo. And look, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, Alan Dershowitz, these are powerful guys. They don't need me defending them. But just the fact that they are appearing in photos. Now, they may have had absolutely no idea what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. But now there's this innuendo that they were in photos with him. So now people can have these thoughts about it. So it's not about not being transparent. It's not about trying to protect Jeffrey Epstein or his conspirators. It's saying, the reason we don't do this kind of thing is because now you create these kinds of innuendos among people, and people don't know what to believe. And that's why we've now, once we've started it here, why wouldn't we do this kind of release of investigative records for any major high-profile case?
And of course, it's always important to state that when it comes to these images that we've seen, there's no implication, no sight of wrongdoing. But Hillary, we've had the White House say that the Democrats are cherry-picking these images in order to create a fake narrative.
Well, they probably are, but so are the Republicans. The Republicans are blaming Bill Clinton. You know, Donald Trump is saying that he never had any contact with Jeffrey Epstein after 2003, and we know that that's not true from things that have been released. So, a pox on both their houses.
And I tell you what, Hillary, Joe is laughing, he's smiling and nodding with you. We've got some agreement here on the context. Joe, when it comes to going forward legally, what kind of position does this put the going forward when we expect the release of the full Epstein files? Does this kind of relate to that? Help us to understand.
Well, I mean, this is probably a subset of what is now supposed to be fully released by statute. I wish I didn't like the statute to begin with, but it was passed. It was passed with bipartisan support and signed by President Trump. So then, okay, let's follow the process. So I don't like leapfrogging the process and releasing this subset of photos. And Hillary's right. It is absolutely a pox on both houses. Both parties are performing very poorly here. My hope is, okay, fine, we've made this decision with this case, release everything. Maybe that will end the palace intrigue of this case, but please let's move on and not do this again.
Joe, sorry, just one very quick procedural point drawing on your prosecutorial background. The Justice Department has until the end of next week to release those files following the order that went through Congress. What happens if they don't do that?
Well, Congress can call in the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General and question them. Ultimately, they can go to the president and demand it being done, and I guess it's impeachment. It would be the ultimate hammer that Congress has to bear on the executive branch if statutes are not being complied with.
Joe, is that a fair point? Because if you're not going to get anywhere on a federal level, does it really need to be global? We know that, as Hillary was mentioning, these companies are really powerful.
Well, I do fear that Hillary is probably correct in her prediction. And we saw this 10 years ago with data privacy laws, right? At least the European Union got together with the General Data Protection Regulation, right, the GDPR, where at least the 2 dozen or so countries unified around a standard that spans the entire EU about what information companies can retain and collect from users. We never got there in the U.S., right? We have a standard in California, we have one in New York, and we have a patchwork among the other 48 states. So now we're in the AI technology industry, super important, and I fear, again, we're not going to come to some kind of either federal law or even an interstate compact where states can actually combine their laws and follow the same structures. So we're going to have a patchwork of different requirements that companies will not be able to basically comply with, and individuals will fall through the cracks and not actually be protected. So I fear, based on our history with data privacy, we're probably not going to get there with AI.
So, Joe, if Republicans and Democrats are broadly in agreement that there should be some regulation, especially when it comes to protecting children and adults and people's image and their face and their voice and so on, why does the president not compel the congressional Republicans to do something about this and try and get a bill through with the Democrats if they're amenable to it, rather than just going his own way and signing these executive orders?
Well, Katrina, probably because his power to compel Republicans to do anything is diminishing by the day. I wish they would. I mean, I really, this could be one of the few things that both parties could perhaps work together on, because the end result here, hopefully, is something that all of us should want to achieve, which is to protect people, especially children. I think it kind of shows the diminishing power of President Trump. And once again, a well-intentioned effort that's horribly executed, which is kind of a trademark of this president. So the executive order, great intention, right? A unified standard as opposed to a 50-state patchwork of regulations. But when it comes time to actually making it happen, the Colorado Attorney General is absolutely right. There's really no effective ramifications of that executive order. So symbolically, it's great. In terms of having any actual teeth to it, we need an act of Congress, or otherwise we're really going in the wrong direction here.
Joe, Hillary, great to get your thoughts. So, Joe, he said that he wouldn't do it to begin with, and yet he's done it, and then some.
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm a rules guy. I firmly believe that let a court intervene and find out if there were rules that were not followed. But this seems really petty to me. I mean, this seems like just another way to kind of try to get Donald Trump. This is not being paid for by taxpayers. This is all private funding. It's a net improvement, much like I think Richard Nixon added a bowling alley downstairs to the White House. So it seems like one of these things, like it's okay when Democrats do it. It's not so okay when Republicans, especially Donald Trump, does it. So I think it's really kind of nonsensical. You know what? We need a ballroom, build a ballroom.
Okay. I just want to get Joe's thoughts on this, seeing as he's of the Republican persuasion.
Look, I absolutely. And we need to think about a post-Donald Trump Republican government and what that party is going to look like. Are we going to go back to being Reagan-Bush Republicans, or is it going to be the MAGA nationalistic model? So I think good for Republicans in Indiana, good for Republicans in Congress that are willing to buck this president, because it can't be about Donald Trump for much longer.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Right. Joe, you have been in London this week, and I'll let you into a little secret. We're actually in the same studio, but we're looking at different cameras. It's all very the magic of television. You spent Christmas, the week ahead of Christmas, is it Christmas next week, in London? How have you found it?
Kasha, I'm capping off a fantastic week in your beautiful city of London. But I have to say, one of the things that jumped out at me most was when I was deplaning on Monday morning at Heathrow Airport. And one of the first things I heard in the airport was, "Welcome to London, Merry Christmas." And I said, why does that sound so odd to me? It's because for 2 decades in America, we've been told we're not supposed to say Merry Christmas. We're supposed to say Happy Holidays, because somehow mentioning Christmas was somehow offensive to someone or not inclusive. So look, the fact is, we can be inclusive and we can be welcoming and we can be absolutely respectful to everyone and recognize that we are still a Judeo-based Christian majority country, which is a wonderful thing. So you know what? Say Merry Christmas, embrace it. It is both inclusionary and it is welcoming. And so I say I'm so glad to see that in London, and I hope America can continue that tradition and get away from this political correctness that is really not necessary.
Hillary, is